refused to publicly comment on the incident. A source from the police said the two have filed two complaints, one of assault and another of damage to property. Reports that have since been forwarded to the Langata OCPD and the DCI. Ndichu has since been forced to step down as a board member of the Association of Fintechs in Kenya, pending formal investigations into the matter. The organization says it does not in any way condone gender-based violence or violence of any kind. Meanwhile, Mara Ole Sereni Hotel, where the incident happened on Saturday, has distanced itself from commenting on details of the incident because no arrests have been made so far. Very well. So that story right there sets the pace for our first story of analysis on BizChat Weekly. We are now joined by our resident analysts and commentators on this platform. You see them every other Friday on Business Today. William Ramogi Odhiambo is on the other end of the show, and also Wahoro Ndoho, who is CEO for Sandbox Capital. Gentlemen, good to see you this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good to see you.
Great.
Hi, Banji.
Great. So I'm going to go with Wahoro first on this one. We are talking about small and medium enterprises, really, and startups, and the conduct of the founders, which has we have seen developments out of this, and it has come out to really boomerang on them. Investors have pulled out. There's been a lot of backlash. Of course, there are branding issues involved. Wahoro, talk to us about the ethics that should accompany a founder and his business.
Well, essentially, he must be above reproach. We live in a new world where anyone will catch your behavior, your personal behavior, wherever you are. I imagine that Kenya has millions of cameras. And so the days are gone where it was he said, she said. One could have evidence of technology that keeps people knowing exactly what happened. I don't hesitate to comment too much because this thing is still under investigation. But I think the golden link here is, or the golden thread here is, just because you own a business, your own personal behavior will now becomes a critical factor. It is part of your success, part of what you call your reputational capital and brand.
Sure.
And to the extent to which this has gone, I think it's damaged what we pay fairly significantly.
William, do we have permissible misbehavior, really? I mean, because there are situations you can't avoid. So what is permissible? What kind of mistakes can be excused in such a situation, William?
I mean, I agree with Wahoro that you need to be above reproach.
Sure.
One of the challenges of being a founder of a business, of a startup, is that your brand and the business brand are intertwined. And so if you misbehave, the business has misbehaved, or rather the business will suffer significantly. And your image matters to the business, and the business image matters to you. And so you have to really consider that. But it's not just about image. Strong businesses are built upon values. Men like Rockefeller didn't build businesses because they were corrupt, or because they were really careless in their character. Character forms the values upon which now a good business is built. One of the biggest discoveries for me was when we were talking about 360-degree planning, was that the vision is informed by your values, because your values really give you identity, and your identity informs your vision. And so whether you like it or not, your values really matter in the end thing, or in the end analysis of things. So that if you are going to achieve your vision, then you need to have core values. And that's why every business nowadays lists their core values. Many of them just list them, but many of them also just give you a vision statement without a proper vision plan. And so for me, this is very informative to small businesses and small business owners, that your vision needs to be informed by your character, your core values, and they matter in business.
Wow, very, very well put. Wahoro, We saw them being removed from the Association of Fintechs in Kenya. Of course, WapiPay also gave a notice towards the same with regard to, them stepping down to give way for investigation. But do you think this is action enough to, to bring back a soiled reputation, so to speak? Uhuru?
He's on mute.
I think I disagree with Ramok to the extent that Rockefeller could do anything he wanted because he did not have a camera covering him 24/7. And so it's true that values matter, and in this day and age, what has changed is that the world in which you do business is different. And what used to be necessarily outside the conversation about reputation is now inside because it's captured. And so basically we're saying, over and above your success as a businessman, that your values and the fact that you are under 24/7 surveillance, and there's nothing about your life that is private. And that's the biggest change that's happened in this generation. Is therefore, businessman, you must take into consideration, if your values are not aligned to where the society is, these are the sort of consequences you'll incur.
Talking about the consequences, Uhuru, while you continue with your submissions, do you think stepping down is a disciplinary action enough, really?
Yes, it is. You step down from being the face of your company, not necessarily from the shareholding. And because they're saying what they're saying now, what is the reality now is your market capitalization, your market reputation, your reputation of capital as far as who as a business you are, is now tied up with who you are. And so sometimes it complicates the business ability to grow or to extend. And so to that extent, a principle is being set that if your personal life creates situations like this, quite apart from gender violence, quite apart from, because you can imagine if you apply the same value to our politicians, you'd have a very different country, so to speak. But the journey is on that the private sector is also setting pace, that your private life and your public life must be congruent. And I think that's an important principle this particular example raises. I'd hope to see more of that in the rest of our society, especially among our political leaders.
I think I love your juxtapose, the comparison with our politicians today. So let's switch gears a bit because we are talking about the repercussions. Part of the arguments I was seeing on social media with regard to this is, the venture capitalists who had invested in their startup were pulling out. So part of pundits argued that, maybe African SMEs get or are desperate to get into such kind of deals, of venture capital deals, without necessarily looking at the clauses and the sign-ups conditions that are there, just for the money and not for other things, really, because we saw the investors pull out and everything. Talk to us about that. Do you think that is a true assertion, and what would it take to make a proper financing deal really for a startup in Africa? William?
Come on, when you're getting money, who really wants to look at the fine print? And I don't think it's restricted to Africa. I think it's across board.
Okay.
Whether it's in Asia, Europe, US, the Latin America, or Africa. Startups are usually hungry for money because at that time you have a wide market, you have a winning product, and you lack capital. And so when a venture capitalist comes on board and says, look, we want to invest, you will be more than willing to engage with them. Perhaps then what you're asking is, should they have really signed on the ethical values that these venture capitalists proposed? The answer is yes. In their mind, they probably thought, you know what, we got this, we have it in order. But then again, things go down very fast as it has for them. I wish them the best. I think if they manage this, they'll probably survive. They are still young. Look, I saw the other day Monica Lewinsky is lecturing people about cyberbullying after a history of a very bad brand. So now she's a brand in cyberbullying. If they manage this well, they might turn it around.
You preempted my last question. Yes, Uhuru, weigh in on this, please.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that it's an interesting one because venture capitalists, especially from the West, they come with it's actually a condition precedent about your reputation, and so as it's a core condition of funding for most VCs, and that's a consequence of the way the American, especially the American and European system has worked, where issues of reputation damage are very, very key to the decision-making process. And it's always a condition whenever you're signing those contracts, VC contracts, that you will be acting above reproach. And it's always known. What I'd like to ask, though, is would a Kenyan venture capital, a purely local entrepreneur, have the same clause and insist on it the same way these other VCs have? I'll be very surprised I'll be very curious to hear their response to that, if it was a purely local investors doing this.
I doubt it, because you see the clauses that you see in the venture capitalists contracts are the same clauses you see when you get a contract from some of those guys from the US. I mean, a consulting contract from the US or Europe. And it includes things like child trafficking, human trafficking, and all the labor law reproach. You don't get the same booklet when you get a
What I'm asking is local, different. I'm saying if there are Kenyan investors, how would they have reacted to this? And I think there's generational change, but increasingly there are more investors who would say, yes, look, this is not acceptable. But I'm saying even we ourselves as a society, we're also in transition. And so my question of curiosity is, would we have insisted at the same level? Because, the investor was swift. I mean, these guys did not waste time. They were immediately on it and said, look, we're not investing in you anymore.
Yeah.
That, I think, set a new pace here for Kenyans.
I get those sentiments. I mean, really, would the owners of capital locally also go with such kind of a move to pull out when such a thing happens? But very fast, I want to give 30 seconds to each of you, because we need to also talk about another story here. What would it take to bring back, to build back better, really, for them, for the two?
I think the first strategy, you go first. You go on, William.
Okay, William, go.
No, I think for me, the first thing would be own up, take responsibility for your action, and then apologize. And then now move it from there into how do we heal the relationship, especially with the women who are assaulted and harassed. It is never macro, it's micro. Just start from where the mistake was made and build it from there now into a better, engagement with the other players and institutions. For me, that would be something worth respecting. Nothing else would beat that.
All right, Wahoro, 30 seconds. What would it take to bring back better?
I would say, and I absolutely agree, William, the second part of that equation is the speed with which our own local enforcement systems and services would respond to it to bring this matter to a close quickly. Because sometimes that's where you can get to the problem, because if it's extended too long, it can actually damage not just the business, but the whole confidence in the commercial environment. So also the government side of it matters in this space. Prosecute quickly, get to the bottom of it, move on, and everyone learns from that.
Very well. I think they have a good product. They have a good MVP. WapiPay is a good platform which was going to put Kenya in a good place in the Asian trade, and we hope that they recover the lost ground, even with all these things that are happening. Of course, we are anticipating a court proceeding on the same, so we wish them all the best. I think I'd want us to jump right into another conversation, which has, of course, elicited, lots of reactions. Kenyans have been happy after President Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, gave those directives to, bring back the economy better. So it is relief to small and medium-sized businesses after President Uhuru Kenyatta issued a directive that will see businesses not listed in the dreaded Credit Reference Bureau, CRB, up until September 2022. The presidential order has elicited widespread applause from the business community, which was struggling to access credit in these harsh pandemic times. Here is a report on other raft of measures of in the president's third stimulus package, even as the country marked Mashujaa Day celebration in Wangoro Stadium, Kirinyaga County. As of February 2021, 14 million Kenyans had been listed in the dreaded Credit Reference Bureau (CRB), majority of them being young people under the age of 30. This had curtailed their ability to access credit for financing businesses. However, for the next 1 year, Kenyans who owe lenders up to 5 million Kenya shillings can breathe a sigh of relief after President Uhuru Kenyatta directed CRB to delist them.
Borrowers with loans below 5 million and below, listed on the CRB from October 2020 to date, will not have that listing incorporated in their credit reports for the next 12 months, ending September 2022.
In an effort to reignite the economy and create new jobs, the president outlined a host of economic measures worth 25 billion Kenya shillings. The fund will be channeled towards various sectors of the economy. Among them, billion Kenya shillings will be appropriated towards competence-based curriculum (CBC) infrastructure, with a target of constructing 10,000 classrooms for learners to anchor the government's policy on 100% transition from primary to secondary school education. President Kenyatta was categorical on the tendering process, insisting only local contractors will be awarded the construction tenders. 10 billion Kenya shillings will go into Kazi kwa Vijana, an informal employment program to keep unemployed youth at work, which will cover up to 200,000 Kenyans targeted in all Kenyan counties. On energy and petroleum, the president ordered the ministries of petroleum and mining jointly with the National Treasury to develop a framework for the stabilization of petroleum prices so as to cushion Kenyans against the turbulence caused by the volatility in fuel prices by 24th December this year. He further asked the Ministry of Energy to ensure the full implementation of the report of the Presidential Task Force on reviewing the power purchasing agreements that establishes a pathway for the reduction of electricity prices by 30% by 24th December. And the highlight for most Kenyans was the lifting of the dusk to dawn curfew, which has been operational for close to 20 months now.
Imenifurahisha sana ni mambo ya curfew. Sababu hiyo curfew ndio ilikuwa imetudhuru sana, especially kama sisi tukitembea usiku, sababu sisi tunatembea mara mingi, tunatembea usiku, napata roadblock ziko mingi, mara tumefungiwa kwa roadblock, mara ukienda hata huwezi pata mahali unaweza kunywa chai. In case ufikisha kuanzia saa 3 ama saa 4 utarara njaa.
Hii curfew ilikuwa imeaffect watu sana juu ya funga kazi mapema, na kazi zingine hazistahili kufunga mapema. Kama hii biashara tunafanya makaa, natakiwa iende late kidogo, ya wafanyikazi wale wakitoka kazini wanakuja wakinunua. So tumefurahia sana.
The biggest winners in the lifting of the curfew are hoteliers, transport and logistics operators, restaurant and bar and club owners. Brian George Otieno, KTN News, Nairobi. That's right. The Mashujaa Day came with lots of goodies for Kenyans, an economic stimulus package. The third one, of course, 25 billion Kenya shillings, lots of goods. Stuff said about the agriculture sector, energy, and of course education. This will form part of our conversation in the Biz Chat Weekly with my guests, William Odhiambo